Welcome, this is a Board Gems side-by-slide comparison. In this video I'll be comparing the two editions of Formula Day, otherwise known as Formula D. Here are the two editions. Formula Day, I think originally came out in the early 90s. This would be a late 90s printing from Eurogames. You'll notice that it's English, the Formula car racing game, but the name is still Formula Day. Which is not French, because that would be Formule Day, wouldn't it? So they translated Formule to Formula, but they didn't translate the day. So for a multilingual edition, I suppose, this is English only, but the name, they probably wanted to have one that works in multiple languages, so they went with Formula D, which I think originally was printed in 2008. There have been a number of printings in the 2010s. Based on the Asmodee logo in the corner. Yeah, this would not have been one of the first printings. Formula D is in a square box, which has the same profile as something like a Ticket to Ride, but it's a little bit thicker, maybe similar in thickness to Heat. Formula Day is in a long box, which is, pretty normal for games that came out in the 90s. If you look at sort of like a standard long box, which you might see in something like a Ravensburger game like Labyrinth or Scotland Yard, this one is larger in all dimensions. A little bit unwieldy. Racing at the speed of dice. Well, it's not a speed game. Maybe that's a little bit confusing. The components actually take up not that much space on the back of Formula Day's box. It's mostly text. And kind of a silly lighthearted illustration. In Formula D, they try to go a little bit more cooler, but also promoting the components a little bit better. Both boxes inserts have special spaces for the 7 dice. The skull and crossbones is a little bit much, I feel. You can see a lot of wasted space in Formula Day's box. That central well is big enough to hold the 2 track boards, so the box didn't really need to be much larger than that. But there are also wells for the components, the player boards, and even something for pencils. Formula D has a little bit of wasted space because it has these 10 small plastic trays that the players use, and the wells are big enough for like 14 of them or something. So there's a little bit of wasted space. The box didn't need to be as thick as this. Both editions have separate rule books for the basic rules and rules for more experienced players. Formula Day's rules are mostly a wall of text, some diagrams where it's absolutely necessary, but otherwise you have to read a lot, and it's easy to miss rules in this, I find. Now, they do expect you to have already read the basic rules, and then here's additional rules that you can add in, like slipstreaming and weather. Note on the back it mentions suspension and dangerous spaces, which is something that they only introduce as part of 3-lap races, interestingly. Formula D, they introduce suspension as advanced rules, but in any length of race. So again, Formula D has rules split up into beginner's rules and advanced rules. Many more diagrams, a bit more well laid out. One slightly odd thing is that, in all the rule sets, when you're taking off from the starting grid, you roll a black die to see whether you have a quick start or you stall. And they change the rules between beginners and advanced, such that if you roll 17 to 20, you're doing a fast start in beginners rules, but in original Formula Day rules and the advanced rules, it's only on a 20 you do a fast start. I'd love to talk to somebody to find out why they decided to make that change. They just think that making it more likely to blast off from the starting grid is more fun for beginners? I'm not sure. Now, one thing I do kind of appreciate in Formula D's advanced rules is that they repeat everything. So you don't have to go back and forth between different rule books to find something you need. Advanced rules also include, again, 3-lap races, weather conditions, and also in road races, now you can have drivers, which I'll talk about more later, which have special rules. And on the back of the rule book, it shows all the different drivers and their special stats and powers. I couldn't really see any difference in the dice, so let's just move right along. So Formula Day used these player boards. They have the outline that is the same color as the car, and you'd have a piece of paper from a pad that you would insert inside, and with a pencil you would mark down when you would use wear points. And it had a sort of a stick shift on the top. I'll show that in a second. Formula D has this little plastic tray with a cardboard tile with holes in it and little plastic pegs that you can put in. So you mimic a little stick shift on the left. That's kind of cool. And you have these rows for the different types of wear and little plastic pegs that you can move up and down. Well, down mostly. You can have these little player boards that show the race car color scheme, which has a little reminder too as to where all the stats start. That's important because the stats can change. So in road races, you can have these different drivers that start with different stats. They also have special abilities which are not particularly clear from these boards. You'll have to consult the back of the rule book for their special abilities. And you'll see in the foreground, this is the reverse side of that same tile and tray. Instead of having different rows for the different stats, in the beginner version, you just have generic wear points, and every time you do something which strains the car, like overshooting a corner or downshifting more than one gear at a time, you just use up these generic wear points instead of using up wear points that are specific to the action you're trying to do. This is something they borrowed from Formula Day Mini, which is a simplified version of Formula Day. In Formula Day, you also use these little player boards for stick shifts. It's just a wooden pawn that you move back and forth, left and right, along the top of the board. You'll see the plastic cars on the right. These spoilers are interchangeable. And so you can have 10 players, for example, and they can be on 5 teams. And you can differentiate them by the spoiler color and also the pawn color that you use. Comparing to the Formula D cars, Formula Day's cars are quite a soft plastic. The soft plastic doesn't slide very well on the board, I find, so you'll probably want to pick them up and then tap, 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 tap the spaces, as you're moving, which is fine. But I prefer a harder plastic, and that's what's used in Formula D. They actually give you 2 sets of cars. Now, if we look at the open wheels format, now the spoilers are not interchangeable. Instead, they have 5 specific color schemes, and they're differentiated by having the front and rear wings to be the main solid color of the car or black. And that's how you would differentiate between the teammates. Now, it's very cool that they also provided these alternate cars, which would be used for the road races. Although, I don't know about your group, but my group loves to mix and match. If we're going to race in Monaco and I got my open wheel cars, there's going to be somebody in my group who insists on driving a hatchback. That just takes me out of the game, man. Can we all just stick with the same type of car? I don't mind to use the sports cars, but let's all just use the same type, okay? Both editions come with the Monaco Grand Prix as standard. Here they are side by side. Actually, the original Formula Day one is on the right in this photo. You'll notice the chicane after the tunnel is a little bit different. I think that's in response to actual changes that were made to that part of the track, maybe in the early 2000s. That's the only difference that I noticed between the 2 tracks, although I didn't super analyze it. Formula D has these spaces marked darker because in real life that's where a tunnel is. It has no in-game effect. I guess it's kind of nice to know where the tunnel is, although I feel really bad for the people in these stands. They don't have much to look at. The back of Formula D's board is a road race in Race City. Imagine being the mayor of Race City. Actually, imagine being in charge of the tourism bureau of Race City. We want to get out there, we want to promote Race City as a tourism destination, but we want it to be known for more than just races. Let's promote the supermarket, the chemical plant. So this track does have special rules. For example, those yellow spaces and also near police HQ. It does have a pit lane. There are separate rules for Formula D road races, and they actually don't use the pit lane. You somehow just get wear points automatically each time you cross the finish line. But it's nice to have the pit lane in here as well, in case you just want to use it as a regular Formula Day track. The back of Monaco in Formula Day has Zandvoort, which is a real-world Dutch racetrack. I like to think that there is, in real life, a comically large windmill next to the racetrack. You will notice these sort of dark tracks here that go off the board. Why is that? Well, when they first released Formula Day, they intended to make expansions. You know, you would get new real-world tracks that you could add to your collection. And the first expansion, they're very clever to do this, is Zandvoort 2, which you can combine with Zandvoort 1 to have a giant track. If I were to release a sort of a bucket list of, you know, one-time events that you want to do if you're in board gaming and you want to say, I want to experience this thing once, this would be on the list. Playing Formula Day on the giant double Zandvoort track. And if you own Formula Day and you have the base game and you have Zandvoort 1, you're going to look at that and you're going to really want to get Zandvoort 2. Thanks for watching. Formula Day is still a good game. I know, because they're putting it on Board Game Arena. It's in alpha there, or beta, I think. That's cool. It's still a good game. Take care.